Welcome back to In the Spotlight with Kathleen Murphy and Jeannie Ives. We're here to discuss quite a few things today. And leading off is going to be the Sean Casten Critical Race Theory Twitter rant, which he is always doing. We're going to also be talking with Derek and Cedric Crenshaw.
Yep.
That's also about critical race theory because they approached D87 about what happened in their local school board. But you know, where does this all come back to? Oh, Lori Lightfoot. 99%, not 100%, not 98%, but 99% of the criticism that she's receiving is strictly due because of her racism and sexism. Strictly it. So that's going to be an interesting segment. Boy, it's something everybody's talking about from around the nation, but it's local here. It affects us locally, and she needs to be prosecuted on her record. Back to the top, though. Oh, boy. I mean, Sean Casten, he loves Twitter. He doesn't care much about Facebook, but Twitter is where he feels empowered to just take people down. And, you know, so he's out on Twitter responding to the NRCC, essentially saying, you know, that Sean Casten supports teaching critical race theory in the military and learning more about white rage. That is a absolute true statement. He does support that.
Yeah, he does.
This comes in the wake of General Milley testifying before Congress about saying, you know, he thinks that we should learn about critical race theory in the military, and that we should subject our military kids to some of this. And I'll be before we get to Sean Casten. I'm going to tell you, I completely disagree with General Milley. And I have met the man. In fact, when my son Nick graduated from West Point, he happened to be there.
Yeah.
And we were down on the field in front of the where everything was set up for the whole event, and we were just taking pictures like many other families were doing. And we had a gaggle of us. There's probably 9 of them, including my brother who came along, and a nephew and a girlfriend, or whatever else. And he politely, General Milley said, "Hey, listen, I'll take the picture for you." So he took this fabulous picture of our family. He greeted all of us. My son Matt was there, who had just gotten his Ranger tab. He was in full uniform. So it was really a nice moment with the man. But what happened, General Milley? You go before Congress and you're testifying that you think it's okay. You're saying that no, we do need to infuse critical race theory into West Point. I'm telling you, they've had
this
enough.
Is how the
and
military
should
spend their time.
They shouldn't be spending their time. And then, you know, at West Point itself, and I don't know if I've told this story before, but they actually had a lady in called Caroline Randall Williams, and my son is a freshman. Well, now he's not a freshman anymore. He just finished summer training. I'll be seeing him in a few days as he returns for the month of July. But he alerted me to the fact that Caroline Randall Williams was a mandatory instructor, a mandatory presentation for all English level cadets to take. Now, she is a woman who wrote an essay called "You Want a Confederate Monument? My Body is a Confederate Monument." It was published in the New York Times last June of 2020, and the entirety of their essay can be summed up in the one statement that she wrote. She said, "I'm a black Southern woman, and of my immediate white male ancestors, all of them were rapists. My very existence is a relic of slavery and Jim Crow." So according to her, the basis for her entire statement goes back 5 generations to her great-great-grandparents during a time when slavery existed in America, which was horrible, but basically saying that, telling these new cadets, this was the whole crux of her presentation, that they must have their own sort of white supremacy. Well, fast forward to November of 2020, right after the election, she writes another essay that the New York Times published on November 7th, and it was titled "A Loving Chastisement for America." In the post-election essay, she further defines who she thinks are bigots, racists, and white supremacists, Republican voters. She literally put this in her essay. "What I do know is that it was black people from Philadelphia, Atlanta, Milwaukee, and Detroit who brought democracy back in line with the will of the people. And all I can offer now is a loving reproach. The Republican Party, whatever else it means to be, is a home of virulent, violent white supremacy. Self-respecting people of all colors must abandon it until such a time as it chooses to excise that hate." This is a person.
Well, of course, I mean, just to push back on that particular point, the Republican Party was founded to fight slavery, and the abolitionist movement was part. I mean, that's the history of it, and the Democrat Party was the party of the KKK. So, I don't know. I know we're rewriting history, but
Yes, I know, to actually say that the Republican Party is the home of virulent, violent white supremacy, and to say this to my son, knowing that, there's plenty of Republicans at West Point. I'm a former Republican elected official. Give me a break. And you're telling my son this? What are you putting these people at West Point in front of my son to make him feel bad because he's white? He can't change that. And General Milley approves of this. This is the type, we're being very specific here. This is the type of instruction that General Milley's approving of, which Sean Casten approves us, which Sean, who's never served, has no idea that you need this whole cohesive team that looks past all sorts of other things like race and gets the mission done. He doesn't understand any of that.
Right. You have to be able to trust the guy next to you, not see him as your oppressor or something. You have to be able to trust the person next to you in the fact. So I didn't serve in the military, but from being around your family, that's what I understand.
Exactly. But so Sean Casten goes on this Twitter rant because NRCC called him out for basically defending critical race theory. And, he just can't take it. And he goes, I'll bite, like he's one tough guy. Let's talk about critical race theory. Buckle up and take notes. And then he goes on to, multi-part Twitter rants, which he is...
the first
does all 26
tweet number one, of course, in typical Sean Casten fashion, is name calling. So he says, as a general matter, I don't engage with the NRCC. Well, no kidding. Sean Casten hates people who disagree with him, hates them, calls them racist, Nazis. We can run through his whole record, but he says they only serve to provoke and are run by, no, they serve to elect Republican congressmen and women and are run by people with the intellectual rigor and moral compass of an emotionally stunted 12-year-old. So right off the bat,
name calls. That's right.
Sean Casten hates people who disagree with him.
And then everything's
documented.
Oh, it's just incredible. And then it's the 2021 version of welfare queens, Ebola, Obama birth certificate, unmasked kids. So he's putting critical race theory, which is a problem for black and white people alike, which is a problem in our school system, which teaches white kids to hate themselves and that they're oppressors. He's putting that. He's saying it's essentially a hoax.
Yeah.
No, it's real, and they're putting it in your classrooms, and they don't want to stop.
That's right.
But racism in America matters. Yeah, no kidding. And we stamped it out with the Civil Rights Act, which, by the way, your party opposed.
Or maybe it's not stamped out, but we have.
Well, exactly.
We are one of the only countries in the world who has taken, a lot of measures, has gone to war with itself to fight against this evil.
Right. I know. Okay, Milley's sin, he goes on to say in Twitter rant number 5, because he can only write in 240 characters, apparently. Milley's sin was apparently having the gall to suggest that our military leaders should know our history and to acknowledge that our imperfect history informs our past. What's the sin? That is
critical theory.
Not it.
Yeah.
That's not it. Listen, you get an entire year of military history.
Right.
At West Point. They know their military history, and they know their history in general, because you also get world history.
Right.
He has even no idea what the curriculum is. He probably never had a history class past 8th grade.
Critical race theory is a
idiot.
Theory, and it's the theory, and it's almost, it borders on being a conspiracy theory, because it is a theory that says that everything, that America was founded on white supremacy, that the driving force behind American history was genocide, slavery, and the subjugation of other people. It is a conspiracy theory.
Well, in Twitter rant number 9, he says there are over 50 million people there were over 50 million people in the Americas in 1491. What do you do? Google that. Our forefathers killed most of them. Seriously, this is hyperbole. He has no idea what he's talking about, and he talks about the Americas. Meaning, of course, North and South America, and like our forefathers. Really, I'm not a descendant of Columbus or anybody else who.
This is when they say this stuff that it was founded on genocide, which I think he does flat out say. It was this is such an incendiary, ignorant. It's divisive. It's because European settlers brought smallpox to the Americas that infected indigenous people who didn't have natural immunity to it. So should we not have come here? And then the other thing is, most countries that were founded 200 plus years ago were founded as a result of war and genocide, because in the age of hunting and gathering and agriculture, it required claiming land, and population growth meant claiming more land. So this was how every country was founded.
Well, listen, we're happy that we now live in a more civilized
Absolutely.
world where
but if you take something out of the context of history,
totally he does. And then he goes, once done, it was a trivial intellectual leap to justify chattel slavery. Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, unfortunately, there's still slavery.
Every history class condemns slavery.
We condemn it completely, but I don't see him condemning the Chinese for the slavery of the Uyghurs.
That's right.
I don't see that at all. But, look, okay, the idea that we could own, buy, coerce, and rape not only our fellow human beings, but all their unborn children as well. Yeah, we disagree. Mm-hmm. We disagree. And by the way, you don't care about unborn children. Mm-hmm. You're abortion on demand guy. I mean, this guy is just one walking hypocrite in every one of these segments. It's just terrible. But by your party, it was your party that seceded from the Union. It was your party that wanted to enslave people. It was your party that created the KKK. It was your party that had the Jim Crow laws in the Deep South. Mm-hmm. It was your party who didn't want the Civil Rights Agreement. Right. It was your party that's still keeping minority children in poor public schools without giving them school choice and the real opportunities that they need. I mean, this guy is he's your
terrible. Party that put
and by the way,
property tax
we know our
place.
History far better than you, Sean Casten. And thinking that the military needs to be teaching this wokeness is wrong. It's just wrong. It's divisive, is what it is. Mm-hmm. 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 Well, there you go. Segment 1 over.
Yeah.
Coming up next, what's new in Illinois for these laws that take effect? Well, we're sitting here on July 1st. You'll probably not get this recording until maybe Friday or Monday. But what's new in July 1st in the state of Illinois?
Right. So you don't inadvertently break law.